guys, how are you? We're live on Facebook now, so thank you for being here. I want to tell you a little bit about lessons learned in a pandemic, and then we'll do some introductions. So I'm Cathy Mann-Seiple with Fidelity National Title, whoop, whoop, celebrating my 20th year there this year. And in the last couple of months, I've just been talking to a lot of agents really about what they're doing, looking ahead, figuring out how they're going to do their business in the middle of this pandemic. But what I really was hearing agents say over the last couple of months is, what are other agents doing? You know, how are they managing their business? What's happening with them? So a couple of weeks ago, I thought, we need to do lessons learned in a pandemic. I mean, when you really think about it today, we're kind of making just a little piece of history. And I thought that instead of all eyes forward, it might be kind of cool to have, you know, eyes looking back into what we've been through in the last couple of months. So I checked with Julie, saw she wanted to join me in lessons learned in the pandemic. Last week we had Denny Grimes and Candace Decker join us. We really had a lot of fun, I think. Julie, don't you?
Yes, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yay, episode 2. I thought of Kelly Hammer and Julie thought of Troy, and we're so glad that you guys to join us. Now, I know Kelly, at least I know Kelly, Troy, and Julie are meeting each other for this first time. So let's do some introductions, and we'll start with Kelly.
Well, I didn't expect to get started with me. So I've lived in Cape Coral since I was 12 years old. I've been in real estate and or construction virtually my entire life. My dad was a contractor. And so I've seen ups and downs, my whole life. And I love what I do.
Thank you, Kelly. And how long have you been with Selling Paradise?
Almost 4 years.
Excellent.
And I was small independent companies that came to Century 21 about 4 years ago.
Great. And Troy, tell us all we need to know about you today.
So great to be with you ladies. Thank you for the invite. I'm very excited about this
opportunity. You are the only guy. How'd we do that? Okay, we'll let it happen.
I'm a very lucky man right now, but great to be with you ladies, and excited about the conversation we're going to have here. And I've been in Fort Myers area for about 35 years, so I'm dating myself, but have been with Royal Shell Real Estate for 8 years, coming up on 8 years now. And I'm just so excited on what the West Coast of Florida has to offer. So I thought I would spice it up this afternoon with a nice background of Captive Island and allow us to get back to the vision that we've always had, that Southwest Florida is a great place to live, and that real estate is a vital part of that and will continue to be a part of that. So I'm excited, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Troy. Julie, introduce yourself.
Sure, Julie Scott, Movement Mortgage, born and raised right here in Florida. So yes, know how much real estate means to this economy here. And at Movement Mortgage, I've been in the mortgage business for over 20 years, and I'm glad to be doing this with you all.
Thanks. I mean, it is just a little sliver of history. We haven't been through a pandemic together before.
I haven't been through a pandemic, period.
Okay.
I decided I don't like them.
Oh, I wondered how you felt about that. So, hey, I thought I'd take a minute. Julie, I thought maybe you'd let us know how you met Troy, and I'll let everybody know how I met Miss Kelly.
Sure. Well, I met Troy, I guess, when you first got in the business, which is 8 years now, right?
Correct.
Is that what you kind of said? And Troy started for a brief time with the Denny Grimes team, and I was working with them, and that's how I met Troy, and we just developed a great working relationship and have been working toger ever since.
I have known Troy for a while as well.
And I know he respects me, and it works great.
That's awesome. So I met Kelly last year attending some Century 21 Selling Paradise office meetings. And I think it was last September, Kelly, that you allowed me to meet with you one-on-one. And Kelly, you have to know that meeting with you kind of was a life changer for me. I walked away from that meeting thinking, there's a lady with purpose. I mean, you live your life every day with purpose. There's a lot of reasons behind that, but I think you're remarkable. And it was just such a pleasure to have that hour with you, and certainly why I thought of you to talk today during Lessons Learned in a Pandemic. You haven't shared any secrets with me about what your life's been like in the last couple of months. So I guess
Not
you're going to
fun.
do it. I guess you're going to do it publicly today, huh?
I guess.
Okay, so let's get started. Lessons learned in a pandemic. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is what has been one of your most interesting experiences with a buyer or seller as you've maneuvered through this pandemic. And oh gosh, I'll start with Troy this time.
Thank you. Well, I have several lead sources out there and received a lead probably the first week of March, someone who wanted to buy a house. And so we started engaging over the phone, and through the conversation, it was determined that she had to sell her house before she could buy. And right at that point, everything had shut down. So I had never met this person face to face with a typical office appointment. So we decided, with all the medium platforms out there, that we would connect via Zoom and talk about the selling process. And at that point, I was able to share my screen and talk about how we would market her property should we list it. And this was mid-March, right, when everything was.
Was that new for you, Troy? Had you done that before?
I've done a lot of social media, but never with Zoom, and never, I've done some Skype, but more on the personal level. So this was pivoting, as we've been saying quite a bit in the industry. And so we engaged over several Zoom calls, sent her information about our marketing and how we would market the product. And then I actually connected again with her and evaluated her home via Skype and was able to determine a listing price, and never before being in her house. So very, very unique situation. The first time I was able to see her home was about 2 weeks ago, before we went active, when we were finally able to bring a photographer in there. And interestingly, spin on this as well is that she is pregnant, and it's a high-risk pregnancy. So the last thing the seller wanted was really us to come into the home and have a lot of traffic and such. So funny enough, we were able to do everything online besides the DocuSigns up until taking photos. And now we have the house listed. We've had good foot traffic. We have posted guidelines for entering the home because of COVID and our showing regulations. But it was quite amazing to be able to engage with someone just over a computer and not being able to show energy face to face in person.
Well, at the beginning of March, you were really in the hot seat to be, on ready to help that. And did you say that the conversation initiated with her wanting to buy?
It did. And then it was determined, of course, she had to sell her house first.
Well, I really have wondered what would be the mindset of somebody knowing that we were in a pandemic, and what life event would make them move forward to purchase real estate under the conditions we're in.
Yeah, this seller's from Naples, and they wanted to be in a family community, and having a due date of November that she has some pretty tight, strenuous timelines. So I think that was the seller buyer motivation on this particular deal.
Pregnancy, huh?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I will say, and I think Julie agreed with me because we talked about this a lot, in the beginning of all this, I was, shelter at home, stay home. The significance of home ownership really hit me personally very hard. I live in a world where you're never home and you only sleep there. I have grandkids. We've got baseball, basketball, dance, gymnastics on the go all the time. I think I only slept at my house for the last 10 years and never really been in it, but seeing everybody actually home and really getting the feeling for home ownership and a safe place to be was really, really resonated with me, and still does today, to be honest with you. Kelly, did you have an interesting buyer or seller?
Well, no. So now, listening to Troy, I have a new way to meet buyers and sellers. Hang out at the maternity ward, the obstetrician's office. Loiter amongst pregnant women and find place. Yeah.
I knew something great would come out of this meeting today.
I got a new source. Well, I guess I don't have quite as interesting story. When this all first started, I'm used to meeting people and shaking hands, and then no one wants to shake my hand, and then duh, of course, I can't do that. I do have a seller right now who's in a nursing home, so of course I can't see him. And I wind up, and he doesn't do email, he doesn't do internet, he's not even sure how to work a cell phone really, so technology is not a good thing. So I wind up going to the nursing home and leaving something for him at the counter, and then they fumigate it, and then they take it up to him, and he does whatever, and they bring it back, and it takes 3 days to get anything to happen. But, you know, it's happened, so it's okay.
Great, great, yeah. You know, I almost wondered if, and Julie, you can answer this too, beginning of March, mid-March, beginning of April, I don't even know. That's kind of why I'm doing these Zoom meetings. I can think about Fidelity and what was happening there. But were people even listing and selling and buying property unless there was some urgency to it at the time? Thinking back, Kelly, what are your thoughts?
I took a couple listings in March, however, they were vacant. The people were up north, or this man that was in the nursing home. So I took some listings in March, and actually, well, I can think of 2 offhand that I took in March, and they're both closing tomorrow. So
Glad you took those listings, Kelly.
but it was because they were vacant.
Yeah. So it was very restricted, right?
Yeah,
Back at
yeah,
that
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Troy, what? Answer the question. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it was a case-by-case situation. Some were waiting, some were realizing that there was less competition, so let's get the house on the market. We're not an older adult where we have maybe higher risk, and so I think it was a case-by-case situation, and some will, some won't. So what, so to speak, and so you acted upon those who were ready to move, and then you encouraged and you engaged the people who wanted to wait till we got a little further along in the process of flattening the curve. And now they're ready to go. So it's an interesting time. And I think as agents, we just have to be ready. We have to be ready and keep looking, you know, for that person who is ready to go to bat, so to speak.
Did you think it was scary, guys?
Well, so I went on a listing appointment kind of in the middle of all of this. I would say it was first week or so of April. And he wanted me to come to the house. So I was a little, but I would really like to get the listing, so I went. And he's taking me around, whatever, you know. And so he's taking me around, showing me the house and everything. And in the backyard, he's got an elderberry tree. And I've ever had elderberries? Well, no, I've never had elderberries. And well, would I like to try one? Yeah, sure. So we walked out in the backyard. He pulled one off the tree and handed it to me, and I put it in my mouth.
Oh, that has been bizarre trying to figure out.
I got the listing.
And you ate an elderberry, right?
I ate an elderberry, and he took from his hand.
Hey, Julie, so listen, I'm not going to ask you if you're in your office meeting with borrowers, because I remember it was St. Patrick's Day, and I was so excited. I was handing out little Fidelity mugs with lottery tickets for St. Patrick's Day, and I went by your office, and I'm knocking, and nobody's there. So I hadn't quite caught on yet. You were working from home. So have you been pretty much working from home and not meeting face-to-face with borrowers?
Pretty much so. You know, I mean, I can go into the office. I've got a couple of appointments set up for next week. It's just, I've kind of gotten used to working from home. So if I don't need to go into the office, I'm not going to, but I can. I have met a few borrowers. But I just want to play off what you were asking Troy and Kelly earlier. You know, when this all happened, you know, from the lending standpoint, the thought was everybody's going to lose their job. Nobody's going to qualify for a loan. Nobody's going to buy a home. And I remember talking to you about it, Cathy, and we were like, and this was in March, and we're going, well, we're busy now. April looks to be busy, but you know, I think May, June, and July are just going to be dead. And actually, that's not happened at all. I mean, most lenders I've spoken with, including myself, are going to have, you know, a lot of closings in June. It's very busy. So obviously with rates being lower, that's helping. But I've just found, it hasn't really affected buyers like I thought it would. I probably only had 2, maybe 3 buyers that couldn't qualify because they lost their jobs or their income went down. But most of the people, it hasn't affected them, and they're just happy to have the opportunity to buy at low rates and, take advantage of things while they can.
Well, I have to say, I certainly think that we're blessed. There's been a lot of tragedy that has come out of this COVID-19 virus, and the fact that the real estate market has stood this test just is, to me, a testimony of who we are and what's important to us. But I never want to overlook the fact that there's been a lot of tragedy, and certainly thinking about the people in the front lines, risking their life every day for what we're going through. But yes, what a super pleasant surprise to see that our market, the real estate market, is holding strong, don't you think?
Mhm.
Hey, so I just want to say, kind of felt like preparing for a Cat 5 hurricane. All of us have been here a long time. We know the drill, right?
Mhm.
I remember the last hurricane that was coming. My daughter has 7 kids, and remember we were supposed to have that super bad flooding, and she lives out in the Buckingham area, and they were in a flood zone, and she was telling me how she was going to magic marker each one of her kids with permanent marker, pair them up 2 by 2, like the 17-year-old with the 5-year-old, put them on a floaty. And she wouldn't come to my house because she thought that would certainly be death and destruction. So, but I have to say, this is like preparing for a Cat 5 hurricane, day after day, week after week, month after month, right?
Just lasts way longer.
Way longer.
Way longer.
So this is an important question number 2 to me. And it is really, what current advice might you have for other agents? Because I think that's important, or for investors or buyers and sellers in today's market. It's changing all the time, but Troy, what would be your advice today?
Yeah, and we've kind of gone through several phases, I think, through the pandemic. And I think the important thing initially was to just stay engaged with customers. Not so much push real estate in their face. Do you want to sell? Do you want to buy now in early March? But hey, what can I do for you? Can I bring anything over? Or shall I go check on your place? So just a lot of engagement. Hey, I'm here for you as a person. And now we're kind of transitioning, I think, into market updates. And the market's changing weekly. I mean, the inventory is relatively tight now. I think the buyers that are out there are people who want to buy because they know there's less competition. So I think it's important to have those buyers that are looking to say, hey, let's get out there. We've created some safety precautions. Inventory is a little tight now. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you have less competition looking. So if you really need to buy and you're pre-qualified with Julie, let's get going. And that's my advice is, and on the other hand, if you're ready to list, put your house up there, because again, there's less properties coming to market right now. So I think it's a good time.
Okay, great. Good advice. Kelly, how about you? What would you be your advice, as I said, either to realtors, investors, or homeowners or sellers?
Well, I agree with everything Troy just said. As far as agents go, I had been doing video previously, which was good. I kind of knew what I was doing. But I think video is become more important because, for instance, I do have some properties that are occupied. And so I can do a video of the property, send it to a buyer, and kind of get them almost pre-qualified if they even really want to come see it in person, since there are people living there. So that's been important. And I would recommend that if agents aren't doing that, they do that, or they learn how to do that and do it well.
Was that a big learning curve, or did it come pretty natural for you, Kelly?
Well, I've been doing video previously. I started with video maybe a couple years ago. Video's the future, right? No one reads. So I've been doing video for a couple years. So I kind of already was doing it. So no, I was okay. I was comfortable with it. I'm good with it. And more important now, if an agent isn't doing it, or if they're only doing it sporadically, they should do it more.
So you're encouraging other agents to just really embrace that. And I've been to a lot of webinars just saying, you know, you get better as you do it. Be authentic. That's the most important thing. As a matter of fact, we had a webinar last week, and I think what he said is visibility beats ability. So when it comes to video for agents, you know, visibility beats ability. You know, authenticity is everything. So I think we're being pretty authentic today, throwing the dice and being on Facebook Live. But I think that's great advice, Kelly. Thank you for sharing that. Julie, advice.
So my advice, of course, is coming from the mortgage side. So whether you're a realtor or you're a buyer, you know, mortgage guidelines are changing constantly and they vary from lender to lender. So if you've been pre-approved and let's say it was a month ago, 2 months ago, and you're going out shopping now, make sure you check back with your lender. Make sure there's been no changes because they're just changing constantly. That's the one thing. The other thing I just want to throw out there, because this is a big topic right now, is forbearance. And the guidelines on that are also changing, but just be very cautious. You know, if you have a mortgage and you know you can't make your mortgage payment, then obviously the forbearance is there for you for a reason to help you. But if you can make your mortgage payment, please just make it and do not do the forbearance, because you know the consequences on that can make it difficult to buy in the future. So just be very cautious of that. And whether it's a mortgage or an installment loan, I've got a buyer right now that he co-signed for some family on their auto loans. He doesn't make the payments, but he's a co-signer. Those auto loans are now in forbearance, and we may have an issue qualifying him now. So just be very, very cautious of the forbearance.
Yeah, I listened in on your lender panel yesterday and learned a lot of things. So thanks for doing that, Julie. So the biggest question of all is kind of the premise of this interview, and I hope that you've given some thought to it, because I really want to know what your authentic lessons learned in this pandemic would be, and what you'd be willing to share, whether it's personal or professional. You know, dig deep. What would be your greatest lesson learned in this pandemic, Kelly?
I don't like pandemics. I don't like working from home. I like coming to the office. I don't like my desk being 10 feet away from the kitchen.
Problem.
Well, what I learned was that you need to have discipline. It's fine being at home, but you still need to get up in the morning, and you still need, for me, I need to fix my hair, get dressed, put on some makeup. I need to be professional, even if I'm only going to the living room, and I still need to treat it as a job, because that's what it is. And that I've also learned that, you know, maybe I didn't take this whole pandemic disease, sickness serious, because I felt healthy and fine, but I have to respect others' opinions. Not just their opinions, but their life.
Their choices.
It's devastating, certainly. And so I need to have more empathy and sympathy, and I need to work on that. And I think I have, but I need to work on that. And I've learned that tremendously.
Well, that's a good lesson. It is an invisible monster. And I remember a couple of weeks into this pandemic, you know, my mother is older, and I watch over her. She lives alone. She's a widow, but she got sick. And man, you know, I'm not saying I wasn't insensitive to it, but it was invisible to me until it became very visible. Now, she didn't have this virus, but that invisible monster became very visible to me and kind of changed my attitude about everything. So that was one of my lessons learned in the pandemic. How about you, Troy?
I think, you know, for me, and I've always got on my soapbox about this, we got to stay fit. We've got to, movement creates emotion, and emotion causes change. And I don't mean you have to go out every day and run a marathon, but I think you need to get moving. You need to stay mentally fit. And great comments, Kelly, about, you know, getting dressed, having a place to go, fixing your hair. I found myself having to do that as well. But, we are only as good as our next sale as real estate agents. And I have talked to many agents over the years, and in my 8 short years of being in this business, I've tried to run it as a business. And that's as deep as every single commission we make, as we live on commission, you should be setting aside 20% to pay your taxes and 20% to get you through the months that you don't make a sale. And thank God I was heavily loaded in March with about 25 deals already on the books. They got me through the month. But the reality is I talk to agents who don't have any reserve money. So run your business as a business, pull money aside every commission you make for taxes and for a month that you don't make a commission, and continue to build and engage relationships, because that's what's going to get you to the next sale is that relationship with that buyer or seller that will be ready at some point down the road.
So you're telling me your basic lesson learned was to stay fit and keep moving and take care of yourself so you can do the best you can at the job that you're doing.
Pretty much, but also to make sure that you put money aside each and every successful close. So you have money when you're not able to get that sale, because as Julie will tell you, we had several deals that came off the books because of the virus. People pulled out. And so, to have a little protection money for a rainy day is very comforting. In itself, this is a tough business because it is commission oriented.
Yeah. My lesson learned, and then I'm going to ask Julie, I can't live without hugs. I'm just saying it's just a god-awful thing. So I learned that I needed hugs. I'm not going to hug you today, Julie. You should feel safe. What was your lesson learned during the pandemic, Julie, even though you've been asked twice in a row here?
Yeah, no, I would say lesson learned, there's been many, but one of them, and Troy just made me think about it when he said something, is the importance of relationships. And, I've always been about relationships. The company I work for, that's their whole thing, is relationships. But I've found that since we've all been so distant and isolated, it's kind of deepened our relationships. And I'm sure you all have felt the same thing, when you contact your clients. It's really more about the relationship than just about the numbers and the sales. So not only with our clients, but our family, being at home with my husband and 2 children all day, every day.
All day.
Yeah. All day, every day. We've really, it has deepened our relationship. So that's a good thing. I know some people, it's kind of done the opposite, but so just how important relationships are. Our lives are just all about the relationships that we have.
Well, I have trouble having a relationship if I'm not with people, so I'm just saying. Kelly, I was hoping you could tell us how your little puppy's doing.
Oh.
I know you go visit your puppy at your lunchtime, but how's your puppy handling? Did your puppy handle you being home all day, every day?
She loved it, and now she gets very sad when I leave in the morning. She's going through withdrawals.
You're kind of stuck, huh? Well, be firm, Kelly. Be firm. Because I know you are.
Mommy has to leave. For mommy's sanity, she has to leave, okay?
I got it. So, I promised that these lessons learned in a pandemic would be limited to 20 minutes. And we're coming up to the end, but I have a surprise question just for fun, and you have to tell the truth. You had to tell the truth. So tell the truth. At the beginning of this frenzy of this pandemic, what did you hoard, Kelly?
Actually, I've always been a toilet paper person, so I already had toilet paper. I didn't have to buy toilet paper. So what did I hoard? Well, I bought more groceries than I usually do. I usually just buy a little bit. Like I go to the grocery store every 3 or 4 days, and I did groceries to last for a couple weeks, I suppose.
Stocked up, huh?
Toilet paper hoarder, so I was good there.
Troy, what'd you hoard? Now tell the truth. I can tell you're thinking of a story that'll sound really smooth and cool.
Oh, I'm thinking about it, and I'm wondering if this is going to get out, but I'm a big champagne drinker. And my fiance, who is in Chicago quarantined and waiting for a job transfer, we haven't been able to be together, but we like to drink champagne when we're together. So we ordered 2 cases of champagne and had them shipped down here. So I'm heavily stocked.
Champagne trumps toilet paper, winner.
No, but it's ready and will be available soon.
Once again, I hoarded canned goods that I'll never eat. I don't even know why I do it. Gosh darn that Progresso chicken soup I'll never touch again. Hey, what'd you hoard, Julie? Tell the truth.
Well, it's pretty boring, and I think it's kind of the same as what Kelly said, is groceries. You know, I would go to the grocery store and spend twice as much money because, you know, I didn't really want to go back anytime soon, and I wasn't sure if I'd get any restaurant food. So, plus just doing more cooking at home. So I would
Gosh,
say
that really was a scary time, wasn't it? In the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, our 20 minutes are up. Troy, Kelly, thanks for stepping up and joining us today. I really
it's my pleasure.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It was fun, and I'll be checking back with you for some more secrets as we move along. Thanks, Julie. Anything anybody'd like to add before we end our interview today?
Just want to thank you ladies for letting me be a part of this. Very informative for myself as well. And I'm toasting you with the champagne that I have.
Nice.
We look forward to being invited to this champagne party.
Absolutely.
Troy, now listen, she said that and Facebook Live saw it, so party time.
I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to say, you know, just remain positive. You know, if you're healthy and safe, and you don't have that to worry about, and your family's safe, just stay positive.
Yeah, we're all blessed.
As far as work goes, you know, there's business out there, and as long as you're doing the right thing and staying positive and maintaining your relationships, I think we're all going to be just fine.
More than ever, home sweet home, huh, guys?
Yep.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to end it now.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, guys.